In looking at the quiet tree-shaded village of Hill End today, with its district population of just 140, it is difficult to imagine that in the 1870s, 8,000 people lived and worked here, all attracted by the chance to find gold, some of whom met with great success. Photographic prints provide clear glimpses of many aspects of life at that time, and some people take a closer look at other remnants. Even the teachers and pupils of the local small school at Hill End found that they had a lot to learn on just such an excursion. Teacher in charge, Jane Ray.
Well, this excursion today has been the culmination of a study of our local area. The children, of course, love the mine. That's always the big attraction. But I think just generally seeing all the sites around Hill End and where things used to be. Now a lot of it's just vacant blocks, and to actually refer back to slides of what used to be there, I think the children really found that fascinating.
Righto. Well, we're going to have a look around our town today. We have a lot of other people coming here from all parts of Australia. We have them coming here from all parts of the world to have a look at our little town. And although we're small, we play a big part in Australia's history.
Malcolm Drinkwater is always very supportive of the school, and he has come down on a number of occasions already during our unit of work.
We weren't just a tiny little town. We were the second largest town in New South Wales. People didn't go to other places to buy goods and bits and pieces. They came to Hill End, because Hill End was where all the money was. Hill End was where the gold was, and the gold was the key word. Now we're going to have a look around the town, and we're going to see some of the sights of the town, some of the important parts of the town that have changed a lot over the last 100-odd years. The most important thing to remember is the fact that the church was never finished. And that tells you how quick the gold rush finished, because they never finished building the church. You would have seen the lights as we walked in. They're oil. They would have a stick with a hook on the end of it, and they'd run that stick up and put the hook through this eyelet, and they'd pull the lights down to there. Then they could take the cap off the light. They could adjust the wick, light it, and put the cap, which is the mantle, back on it, and adjust the flame to give them their brightness. Ready? Yes! Let's go walking. Now later on today we're going to go underground into the Bald Hill mine. When we go underground we're going to try and understand how the land changes over millions of years, which is a long, long time. But change can occur over 100 years.
Malcolm Drinkwater obviously delights in bringing history to life in the little village. So how did he become involved?
I'm a gold miner by trade. I've spent 20 years in the Hill End area, and of that I've spent 5 years underground. And in that time I was always asked questions, you know, where do you find gold? What does it look like? And within a very short time I started to take guided tours. The tours are aimed at the school students who frequent or visit Hill End for the purpose of studying their gold unit. There are in excess of 300 schools visit Hill End yearly. Now, with Australia, our gold is mostly in what's called quartz veins. So when we go underground, we look for a special type of rock, and it's quartz, and it occurs in a seam in the earth. Now we're ready to go inside the mine. Before we go in, we have to fit safety helmets. slide the pin along, that's it, and you place it into another hole so that you can make the helmet smaller or larger to fit your head. And we've got some mine tour tickets to give you, which shows you what the mine looks like. Everything's here, especially with an underground mine where the children can walk through and they can see what it was like to be a gold digger from the 19th century. They can see the implements used and they can see all of a sudden where the gold is. They know then that it's a very simple pattern, and we're going to have a look at some quartz veins, and we walk in 100 metres into the hill, and with that 100 metres into the hill we go into two little display rooms. And we've come in to have a look at this. Quartz veins, that's it. This rock here is too hard for a Ballarat pick to have any effect. So that's where we use explosives. We drill holes in the rock, we put explosives at the end of the hole, and then we plug up the hole with a bit of mud. In the old days, today we use paper. Now at the finish of the display rooms, we have a 33-metre shaft to the surface. There are 10 ladders. It's like going up an 8-storey building, just the way the old blokes did.
Hello, 24.
Keep coming.
Gee, it's scary. Come on.
When they get out of the top of that, they think that they're the greatest in the world.
Sam, you've just come up through the Bald Hill mine. What did you think of it down there?
I thought it was a bit scary, but the fourth ladder was the darkest, and it was all wet and slippery a bit on the ladders.
What new things did Patrick notice on this, his second trip into the mine?
All the quartz veins and all the rocks and tools and all that, and the holes. I think I'd like to be a miner, but it'd be pretty scary going down the mine shafts. You'd have to rely on the things, otherwise isn't it?
Some buildings in Hill End have changed very little, like the mining registrar. That small building today stands totally abandoned, although it's owned by the National Parks and Wildlife Service. It took care of the purchase of gold, the lodgement of mining claims, the settlement of mining disputes. That little yellow window was the teller's window. That's where you went to deposit your gold and you received a receipt. The original post office was a wattle and door building. When the population increased, the post office needed a bigger premise. That building became the nowadays post office of Hill End. It's a large building built out of rock and brick, a little bit more opulent than the earlier wattle and door building, which later on became part of the Great Western Stores. It was originally built as the Dodds family hotel and later became the Inn Athol, and now as a private residence that is leased from the National Parks and Wildlife Service. Opposite the building was the Tattersall's Hotel, Creasy's Hotel, the European Hotel, J.K. Weir's Cricketers Arms Hotel. Clark Street was the busiest street in Hill End. 17 hotels alone in Clark Street, and some of them very majestic buildings. Today, it's the emptiest street of Hill End, with only 2 or 3 buildings of any great prominence.
Is this the first excursion around the village for this particular group of children?
No, the primary children went on a walk. The very first day we began the unit, we walked the town and just generally had a good look at signs of what used to be there. They then had to choose a building that they particularly liked the look of, and they went off and did a pencil sketch of it and came back with their productions, which were really excellent.
Rebecca and Ben told us more about the maps.
First of all, we did a bit of research at school on the town and some of the buildings in it, and then we went out on an excursion around the town. We did a rough copy on the way, and then when we came back we did these good copies here, and for the things that are there we put squares, and for the things that used to be there we put crosses.
The main idea of doing these maps was to show how busy it was in the 1800s.
The local excursion is really just one part of a large unit on gold mining and the history of Hill End. Jill Firth, who teaches the lower division students, told us of the many other activities.
We've done a lot of local area studies, and we've made out town maps and built a town with cardboard. And then last year also we had a centenary here with Halterman, and the children dressed up in period costume and we enacted the old school days. Yesterday we went gold panning, and some children had never been gold panning. Over the next 2 days we'll do some bush dancing. The children have learnt quite a few dances, and they'll be able to make their own damper, and we've got a spinning wheel, so we'll do some spinning too, just to continue the recreation of the old days.
Our history started with the land, with wool, but it has been gold that thrust us into nationhood, and it plays a very big part in Australian history. Hill End is on-site history.